Today we'll be deck teching Radha, heir to Keld. She is a legendary elf warrior creature for 1 red and 1 green. She is a 2/2, and whenever she attacks, you may add 2 red to your mana pool. The only caveat is this mana can only be spent during your combat step. She can also tap to add 1 green to your mana pool. Radha is fun to use as a general in a commander deck. However, she really shines as a general in tiny leaders. Considering all the spells that you are allowed to play have to have a converted mana cost of 3 or less, the 2 red mana that she adds during her attack step can cast almost any of your instant spells in this deck for free. The ones she cannot, you will only have to pay 1 additional mana to cast. In addition to instant speed combat tricks and direct damage spells, some accompanying equipment can ensure that Radha is a force to be reckoned with. Let's first take a look at the creatures in this deck. Starting us off is Zur-Ta Druid from Dragon's Maze. 1 red, 1 green for a 1/1 human druid that can tap to add a green to your mana pool. In addition, whenever you tap Zur-Ta Druid for mana, it deals 1 damage to each opponent. Spike-Shot Elder is a 1/1 goblin shaman for 1 red mana. And for 1 colorless and 2 red mana, Spike-Shot Elder deals damage equal to its power to target creature or player. Troll Acidic is a 3/2 Troll Shaman for 1 colorless and 2 green mana. Troll Acidic can't be the target of spells or abilities your opponents control. You may tap 1 colorless and 1 green to regenerate Troll Acidic. Eternal Witness is a 2/1 Human Shaman for 2 green and 1 colorless mana. When Eternal Witness comes into play, you may return target card from your graveyard to your hand. Considering we will be casting a lot of instant spells this game, Gutter Snipe can do a lot of work. Gutter Snipe is a 2/2 Goblin Shaman for 1 red and 2 colorless mana. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, Gutter Snipe deals 2 damage to each opponent. Molten Hydra is a blast from the past, a 1/1 Hydra for red and 1 colorless. You may tap 1 colorless and 2 red to put a 1/1 counter on Molten Hydra. You may also tap to remove all 1/1 counters from Molten Hydra. It deals 1 damage to target creature or player for each 1/1 counter removed this way. Krakillan is a 0/0 beast for 2 green and X. While you're only allowed to cast spells that cost 3 converted mana or less, this creature can be as big as you have mana. It comes into play with X +1/+1 counters on it, and for 1 and 1 green, you may regenerate Krakillan. To give Radha some evasion, Dwarven Warriors is a 1/1 dwarf for 1 red and 2 colorless. You may tap Dwarven Warriors, and target creature with power 2 or less becomes unblockable until end of turn. One more piece of evasion would be Taunting Elf, a 0/1 elf creature for 1 green. All creatures able to block Taunting Elf do so. If there are pesky blockers on the board and you need to get in for that final blow, this is a wonderful way to lure your opponent's creatures into blocking only it, allowing all your other damage to get through. Let's go through some equipment for this deck. Sword of Vengeance costs 3. The equipped creature gets +2/+0 and has First Strike, Vigilance, Trample, and Haste with an equip cost of 3. Bone Splitter is a cheap 1-drop artifact equipment that gives target creature +2/+0 with an equip cost of 1. Very simple, very effective. To save Radha from spot removal, Swiftfoot Boots is a 2-drop equipment that gives hexproof and haste for an equip cost of 1. Rancor is an aura for 1 green, with enchanted creature getting +2/+0 and trample. When Rancor is put into a graveyard from play, return Rancor to its owner's hand. Loxodon Warhammer is a 3-drop equipment, giving the creature +3/+0, trample, and lifelink for an equip cost of 3. Probably the most useful equipment in this deck is Tenza, Godo's Maul. It is a 3-drop legendary artifact equipment, giving a creature +1/+1. As long as it's legendary, it gets an additional +2/+2. As long as it's red, it has trample for an equip cost of 1. Radha fulfills both of these requirements, legendary and red, so every time she gets equipped, she gets +3/+3 and trample. This is where the fun really begins. Being able to cast instants for basically nothing. Punishing Fire is 1 red and 1 colorless for an instant. Deals 2 damage to target creature or player. Whenever an opponent gains life, you may pay a red. If you do, return Punishing Fire from your graveyard to your hand. Lightning Bolt is a 1 red, instant speed, 3 damage to target creature or player. Searing Blaze deals 1 damage to target player and 1 damage to target creature that player controls. It has landfall. If you had a land enter the battlefield under your control this turn, Searing Blaze deals 3 damage to that player and 3 damage to that creature. Lightning Axe costs 1 red. As an additional cost to play Lightning Axe, discard a card or pay 5 colorless mana. Lightning Axe deals 5 damage to target creature. Incinerate costs 1 red and 1 colorless. Incinerate deals 3 damage to target creature or player. A creature dealt damage this way cannot be regenerated this turn. Burst Lightning costs 1 red with a kicker of 4 colorless. Burst Lightning deals 2 damage to target creature or player. If Burst Lightning was kicked, it deals 4 damage to that creature or player instead. Colossal Might costs 1 red and 1 green. Target creature gets +4/+2 and gains trample until end of turn. Enrage costs 1 red and X. Target creature gets +X/+0 until end of turn. Brute Force costs 1 red. Target creature gets +3/+3 until end of turn. Wild Size costs 1 green and 2 colorless. Target creature gets +2/+2 and gains trample until end of turn. Draw a card. Might of the Nephilim. For 1 green and 1 colorless, target creature gets +2/+2 until end of turn for each of its colors. Temur Battle Rage. 1 red, 1 colorless. Target creature gains double strike until end of turn. It also has Ferocious. That creature also gains trample until end of turn if you control a creature with power 4 or greater. Psychotic Fury. 1 red and 1 colorless. Target multicolored creature gains double strike until end of turn. And you get to draw a card. Dead and Gone is a split card with Dead reading deals 2 damage to target creature. Gone reads, return target creature you don't control to its owner's hand. Gone is a great way to get rid of creatures that have indestructible or a creature that is too large for you to deal damage to in order to eliminate it from the board. Volcanic Geyser is 2 red and X. Volcanic Geyser deals X damage to target creature or player. Magma Quake is 2 red and X. Magma Quake deals X damage to each creature without flying and each planeswalker. Regrowth is 1 green and 1 colorless. Bring any card from your graveyard to your hand. This is the only sorcery in the deck. Lets you essentially use 2 of any of the cards in your deck instead of just having 1. Since we have many instants that cost 2 or less, Isochron Scepter can pull some serious weight. It is a 2-drop artifact with imprint. When Isochron Scepter enters the battlefield, you may exile an instant card with converted mana cost 2 or less from your hand. You may tap 2 and tap it to copy the exiled card. If you do, you may cast the copy without paying its mana cost. Let's get into the lands. Rugged Highlands enters the battlefield tapped. When Rugged Highlands enters the battlefield, you gain 1 life. Tap to add a red or a green to your mana pool. Kazandu Refuge is essentially the same thing, entering the battlefield tapped. When it enters the battlefield, you gain 1 life, tapping to add 1 red or 1 green to your mana pool. Temple of Abandon also enters the battlefield tapped, but when it enters the battlefield, you may scry 1. It also taps to add a red or green to your mana pool. Tranquil Thicket comes into play tapped. Tap to add a green to your mana pool. You may also tap a green to cycle this land, meaning discard it and draw another card. Sandstone Needle comes into play tapped with 2 depletion counters on it. Tap to remove a depletion counter from Sandstone Needle. Add 2 red mana to your mana pool. If there are no depletion counters on Sandstone Needle, sacrifice it. Wirewood Lodge is a land that taps for 1 colorless mana. You may also tap a green and tap it to untap target elf. Treetop Village comes into play tapped. Tap to add 1 green mana to your mana pool. You may also tap 1 colorless and 1 green, and Treetop Village becomes a 3/3 green creature with trample until end of turn. This creature still counts as a land. So, in summation, Radha is a very aggressive tiny leader. You will be casting lots of instant spells to buff her up, as well as clear out your opponent's creatures, loading her up with equipment, and swinging for large amounts of damage. It is important to give her trample because she will be bigger than most other creatures your opponents can play down in response. Radha herself is also mana ramp, so she can help you cast other creatures or equipment in order to set up a much more effective attack. You must control the board by attacking early and attacking often, and be precise with your instant spells, removing the correct creatures and dealing the correct amount of damage to your opponents to maximize the efficiency of Radha attacking each turn available. We hope you've enjoyed this video. Go out and try Radha, heir to Keld, as your next tiny leader. Let us know what you think. If you have any suggestions or any feedback about this video or the deck, please leave them in the comments below.